Okay, chat, so we're going to be doing a tier list. If you guys have been wondering what weapons to use in the finals season 3, look no farther. We've spent the last almost 12 hours playing every single weapon and trying them out, and I feel like I have a good grasp of what you should be running. If you guys don't know who I am Ottr. I'm the guy when it comes to guide and educational content when it comes to the finals on YouTube, and I spent a lot of time just dissecting this game and learning about the game, and we have solo to diamond countless of times. So, you know, if you wanted some extra credentials, there you go. We're also live on Twitch right now, so if you guys are, chat will actually be able to give me their thoughts on my tier list as we are going through it, and maybe chat disagrees, and then we'll have some live feedback as well. But let's talk about it. Yeah, I'm still sick. But let's talk about it. We have a lot of things to go through. We're gonna start with light. So, okay, let's talk about light. I have written all of it down here because it took a while. So light got the thermal board this season, and he got the bow. We're gonna talk about both because there are some implications here about how they work for light and how to enable light's kit. But starting off, we're gonna obviously say the MP5, the XP54, it is still goated. It has, I believe, maybe the best damage. We're gonna get to that later, but it's certainly very easy to control. It has a good sight. You can combine it with cloak. You can go out of cloak and into you can go out of cloak and start shooting much faster thanks to the scope, which helps you stay keep your aim on target. Is very it's very easy to control the recoil, so I would have to put it in easily. I'm gonna put the XP54 in S tier easily. Just starting off the list, it has to go into the S tier. Following up with that, I was very surprised to hear about the LH1 buffs. They seemed a little bit out of the blue, and once I played it, I'm gonna say it's over buffed. It's super easy to use. It shreds everything so fast across all ranges. It 3 taps light, 4 taps on medium, and I think it's like 6 taps or 7 taps on heavy if it's all bodies. If you hit a heady, it's like 1 tap less because it's a 2x modifier. It is super easy to control thanks to the change to the recoil and visual recoil. It is an absolute goat. I'm not sure whether I would say it's better than the XP54 this season, but I will tell you it is certainly up in S tier. Extremely good. Might actually be better because you can engage from all ranges. If you play terminal attack or if you play World Tour, Quick Cash, you can just fucking shoot people from super far away and they're just gonna turn into easy kills. You think it's A tier? I think personally it's S tier. Both MP5 and LH1 I would put in the S tier. As for the 93R, it's one of the worst weapons for light, or has been, but they did buff it this season. It shoots, I believe, it has better range, tighter spread, and I believe that's it. I don't think they touched the damage really. It feels easier to use, and I definitely felt like I could do more with it over longer ranges. Even hipfire felt a little bit better thanks to the tighter spread, but overall, it's still a burst weapon. And they even said in the patch notes that they want burst weapons to be for landing headshots, but we never really landed any, like, you don't really land headshots in the finals, especially with burst weapons or even automatics consistently enough where you play for it. And I feel like if you do go for headshots, you need a higher headshot modifier instead of the very low headshot modifier we have right now. So 93R feels better. I don't remember exactly where we had it last season, but I'm gonna put the 93R in the C tier. Maybe I would even put it closer to the D tier, somewhere in between, but definitely like low C tier. Actually, looking at the list, I'm gonna put it in the D tier after all. I don't remember what we had it last season, but that had to go down a little bit. We made some, he said we're gonna make some adjustments on stream as we go through this, so that's one we're gonna move down. Moving on, we have V9S. V9S is slightly better. It's 1 more damage. As far as I know, I don't think that adjusts the time to kill or shots to kill significantly on any class. The main problem with the V9S was never its damage. I believe in theory it has one of the highest DPSs, if not the highest DPSs in the game. The problem has always been that the sights are terrible. I believe it probably needs the type of buff that LH1 received, where the animation is different. It doesn't slap you in the face as you try shooting. But overall, I would say that it's not really that much different this season, viability-wise, and we're gonna put it in the B tier because it's still solid. It's just really hard to use. I will have to say also, yeah, somebody just said your Logitech code isn't working. If you use the Logitech code in my description, you will get 10% off. It's already automatically applied if you use the link in the description. That's probably why the code isn't working. Thank you for using it though. Okay, so moving on, we have the SH1900, and this thing has gotten Oof, they buffed it hard. This thing is so good now. It used to be in the bottom, one of the worst weapons right now. Last season, it was one of the worst weapons last season, the SH1900. And now it one-shots a light, 2 pumps a medium, and 2 pumps a heavy. If you get close enough, and it hits so hard. It might even be meta again. Cloak feels pretty solid with it, but you can also run dash with it, doesn't really matter. I would say that it works not only for quick cash, but if you would be playing terminal attack, it's super good for opening damage because you need burst damage to kill somebody with. But if you manage to stay alive until the final ends of terminal attack, when everyone is 100 health or so, having the shotgun is going to be paramount because you can just jump in and one-shot everyone. It's extremely good for that reason alone. We're going to have to put the SH1900 in... Oh, I didn't even put it in a tier yet. I'm putting it in the A tier. I don't know why I didn't put it anywhere, but I'm gonna put it in the A tier, definitely. It could almost be S tier, but it is a shotgun, so it has a bit of it doesn't have much range, and then lack of viability. And it doesn't compare to the MP5 LH1. Liking that viability just pales in comparison, sadly. Also, if you guys enjoy all the gameplay in the background, which we're showing on the not on stream, but on the video that we're uploading, you guys should definitely subscribe to Ottr gameplay. I'll link it in the description if you want to check it out. We're gonna be posting individual, like the best games we got today, we're gonna be posting on a channel. You can check it out. We post several times a day, or once a day at least. Moving on, we've talked about 9VR, V9S, and SH1900. Then we're gonna move on to the next one, which is the M11. So M11 hasn't received any changes, so this is going to be fast. It has overall decent hipfire, and it's pretty good for duels if you play against a lot of lights. If you play against a light who is on the XP54, they're going to be, or even the LH1, they're going to be slowed down, ADS, and you will have an upper hand being able to hipfire on around closer ranges, and just out DPS them, because it's a good hipfire gun with tight spread and a large magazine. Overall though, it doesn't really outperform those weapons, which is why the M11, in my opinion, goes into the A tier. Oh, I forgot to write this one down as well. My bad. Next up, we have the sniper. This one is going to be a bit difficult because I'm really biased. You guys know I really like the sniper. It's really fun to use. It has a massive roof when it comes to skill expression, a pretty high floor as well. But it is it can be very impactful. It can be very useless. You can use a close range, but obviously we're not assuming you just use it for mid and close range. It is a hit scan, high damage weapon. Very good for dealing chip damage in most modes, but it is the strongest in ranked TA because you can just sit back and deal chip damage without being traded back by the enemy team. The LH1 is more versatile, but the sniper is still the GOAT when it comes to just dealing a lot of chip damage on the enemy team and then being able to one-shot everyone with body shots once the late game comes in. I want to say that the SR94 though, because it isn't super viable in cash out, in close range, in these really chaotic fights, especially around the cash outs as they're being claimed, I have to put it in the B tier at the highest. Can you bring up the weapons as you review them? No, we're doing a video as well. There will be gameplay in the background when we are reviewing them, but right now we can't have the gameplay running. So you can just close your eyes and just enjoy the sound of my voice. Dagger, as for the dagger, it's actually worse this season. It didn't really get nerfed or anything. It's just that the meta surrounding the game, I feel like, kind of punishes dagger a lot, and there's a lot of melee weapons that just punishes the dagger, because dagger will lose against other melee weapons. If you get into because if two people are meleeing, they're going to be punching each other, and you're never going to be able to go for backstabs. I managed to get some backstabs when I played with it, but that's because I got lucky. Usually, you're just going to get slapped around by the hundreds of different melee weapons and out DPS'd, because the left click isn't super good compared to the other melee weapons in the game. I'm going to put the dagger in the, I forgot to write it down, grade. I'm going to put it in the E tier, because again, I think it's been bumped down a little bit. You can still make something fun happen with it, but as far as like getting you wins or having any impact in the game, it's not there anymore. It never really was before, but it definitely wasn't now. It's worth mentioning that all melee have multi-hits now, so if you, and this will apply to sword, which we're going to talk about in a second, where as long as enemies are within your hitbox when you're dealing damage, they will take damage. I think that's very good. But it will take some time. But that applies to every weapon, including the dagger, so it's, yeah, not super good. Moving on. Sword. Emote cancels, as you guys know, are gone. Thank God for that. We're happy to see it. Obviously, you can still quick swap, as I understand it. You can phantom strike, as I understand it. I don't know if those are bannable. Emote cancels were. Don't recommend doing it. I tried using the sword without any exploits or cancels. I still did fine with it. and I feel like it's the type of weapon where you can kind of carry with it in the right lobby and with the right play style, but once you start playing against people who pay attention to what they're doing, once the level of play goes up, the viability with the sword drastically goes down. So I'm gonna put it in the C tier, and you guys are gonna hear some notifications because I have a delivery, and I don't want to miss it this time. I missed it last time. That was the sword. As for throwing knives, so in short, as I understand the changes, left click, so the main primary fire has been nerfed and the right click has been buffed. The power has sort of shifted from being a left click spammer to a right click also is kind of viable. It has a longer range and goes faster when you right click. So it's better to snipe with it. And you can kind of like work with both. If an enemy is far away, you want to go for right click. If they're a bit closer, you want to go for left click. It's nice to have both of the options, but I want to say it's overall a nerf because just having left click available was just way easier. And I feel like if something is easy, then it's clearly good, right? So I'm gonna say it's overall a nerf with throwing knives, and I'm gonna put them in. Actually, forgot to put them down. I probably want them somewhere between B tier and A tier. They're very annoying to deal with, but they're not super viable against super sweaty teams, I want to say. So I'm gonna put them in B tier, and I'm saying that as somebody who has ran a lot of throwing knives. Maybe I'll bump them up later down the line, but so far throwing knives are gonna be at the upper B tier. Anyway, we're doing light, medium, and then heavy. We have not done the others yet. Okay, so last one for light is of course the bow. Bow is, I'm torn on bow. I feel like maybe I need to use it more to get like a super good opinion on it. But from my experience in the preview and from using it now it's a little bit clunky. I learned how to get around the clunkiness of it. I learned how to use it more efficiently, but I still felt like against most meta weapons, it wasn't super good. I did feel outclassed in most situations in close range and mid range. And I've definitely felt outclassed at super long range. So let's say I'm fighting at SR98 or something, 84 or something. It's hit scan with a scope versus just a projectile bow that you need to charge up. You become a very easy target. You can run light with dash. It can be really fun to use it, and you can get some really fun clips. But I don't think it has, let's say, like high ranked viability. I might end up eating my words on this. And when I say high ranked, I mean like cash out World Tour, not TA. It's even less viable than TA probably. But I'm just saying, like in general, I feel like against good players that are playing compositions, meta compositions, and in meta ways, I just don't feel like the bow provides any value. It's basically, I feel like there's a lot of overlap with the throwing knives and the bow, not just because both are projectile weapons, but because they're kind of gimmicky, and overall they kind of just don't provide. It's a projectile weapon too, but it just doesn't provide consistent damage. You can't really rely on them, no matter who you are. Even if you're the best bow person in the world, you're not gonna be able to rely on them. What's my favorite weapon for light? LH1 definitely. I'd say yes. I'm still in Skypad. Use code Ottr to get 10% off. It's great. But that was all for light. We'll have the thing on the screen, I think, once Thrill starts editing. But we're gonna hop on over to medium. I'm gonna give you guys my thoughts on medium. I played a lot of light, but medium is very interesting, I feel like, because there are a lot of changes to the weapons in medium, and I feel like there's been a little bit of a shuffle here. So we're just gonna go over it. F-car, overall, I don't think anything has changed. So it is going to perform the same, and that's still kind of at the top of the list. I personally use the AKM more than the F-car, so I'm going to be biased towards the AKM. But, I mean, yeah, no, F-car is unchanged, and I'm gonna have to put the F-car in the S tier because it is still the best all-round weapon in the game, and you have a scope on it, which helps you, like, hit headshots and just hit beams with it. The recoil is annoying to use, or annoying to compensate for, and it feels like it shoots marshmallows compared to the previous one. But I think it changed the season, so I can't really complain. AKM is also pretty decent. Did not see any changes. Again, it's kind of like, what do you feel like having? But I also would place the AKM in the S tier. It deals a good amount of damage. It's solid damage. There's a larger magazine and easier recoil control. So if you don't want the magazine, and I believe the damage is still about the same. If you don't care too much about a scope, I still think AKM is a better choice, but it's all personal preference, if anything. As for the AKM fire rate was increased, was it? This season. That can't be right. Wait. So what are the new numbers then? No, you're fooling me. They did not change the AKM. Don't you try pulling a fast one on me again. I will get you next time. All right, moving on. So what about FAMAS? The FAMAS now deals, I believe it's better over range, is a bit tighter, but overall I feel like it definitely is better than the 93R, and it does what they want to do with like having burst tighter, you want to get headshots or whatever. But I feel like when you record, and when you use the FAMAS over range, it kind of feels okay. But personally, I didn't feel like it was any good once the range started closing towards medium range or even close range. At that point, I would rather just use anything else like the AKM or the FCAR, and those are still viable all-rounders to poke enemies at really far range anyways. So I don't think that the FAMAS is that valuable. I'm gonna put the FAMAS in the B tier. As for the CL40, we are seeing some buffs to it as well. Doesn't make it viable. We will see it shoots faster this season. You deal less self-damage. But overall, I feel like it just doesn't feel that good to use. It's still a projectile weapon, so it can counter with APS, at least a little bit. It doesn't deal too much damage unless you direct hit with it. And it just doesn't feel good. I will always hit on projectile weapons, and this one is also a splash damage weapon, which means that it's just too risky to use it. You're not gonna have consistent damage, which is the most important part of a weapon. So we'll put a CL40 in the C tier. Revolver has been unchanged. We thought there was a change because it felt different in the preview. Maybe it was different in the preview, but in the live version it is not. I'd say that it's kind of awkward to use against the other meta weapons, but it can still shine in the right hands. It still has a decent chunk of damage. It still has a 2x multiplier. And with the current meta, I can see it being okay. I'll see it being okay. Especially like, let's say you're chowling. You can chow lights with the LH1, for example. It basically is, in a way, the LH1 for medium. Not as strong, but sort of the same anyways. You can still shoot back at that range and be able to trade with them. So definitely I would say that it's not, you can't compare it to the S tier or the A tier, but I feel like it belongs just fine in the B tier. And we're just gonna move on from there. With the Model 87, it's also unchanged. If anything, the surrounding meta, assuming people are playing a lot of melee, it is a little bit buffed, but I don't know whether melee will stick around or not. That being said, Model is good for carrying. You can use it in both terminal attack and quick cash type of game modes, or cash out type of game modes, for very high burst damage, 2 tap a light. Sorry, 1 tap a light if you get really close and meat shot, I believe, or 2 tap a medium. And you can pull out a lot of clutches that, with a very high amount of burst damage that no other weapon in the medium kit really has, except maybe the revolver, but not really. So I actually want to put the Model above the revolver and the FAMAS because of the clutch potential. Sure, you don't have any range, but if you close the range, you can just burst so much damage that no other weapon really can compare. Moving on. This is like a whole presentation. I even have my computer, a little laptop here with the notes, so I don't forget. Dual swords, chat. Personally, I feel like dual swords, they feel better than the riot shield, which we will get to later. They are fun to play. They are fun to play if you play against stuff like bow or single fire weapons, maybe even the shotgun or the sniper. But when you play against fully automatic weapons, if the enemy knows you're coming, they're completely useless. They are fun and gimmicky, but as far as, you know, pulling it up against actual good players who knows what you're doing, that you're coming, and are positioning in ways where you can't close the gap, there's not much you can do. I feel like the dual katanas can let you stall out a fight due to the deflect, because nobody will shoot into the deflect once they know what it does. Most people don't know at the moment. Because I've seen so many people just kill themselves shooting into dual swords. But I will say that overall, stalling a fight isn't good for you or the person you are fighting. You're just inviting third parties. You don't really have much of an impact in the fight. It comes down to what the enemies are doing instead. Personally, I would say the double katanas are very overrated, if anything. And I will put them in E tier, only because I don't want to put them in the riot shield, which we'll get to now. I'm going to say that riot shield is probably the worst weapon in the game, or second to worst weapon in the game. It's definitely the worst melee. And it's even worse this season because they didn't buff it and they didn't add anything to medium, but they added more melees. And the thing is, Riot Shield immediately falls short. Riot Shield is all about countering, it's all about countering like weapons, like guns, but it gets countered by almost every gun in the game. Flamethrower shoots straight through it. All melees go straight through it. And, you know, we got 2 new melee weapons this season, which means that there's just more things that are gonna counter Riot Shield out of there. The Winch Claw, which is meta, counters the Riot Shield because it also just hooks you in. The only good thing with the Riot Shield is that yes, you can kind of block enemies, block shots like with the dual swords, but people can just shoot your feet and kill you anyways. Dual swords at least can block the entire front, apparently, at least when I tested it. They're fun, but they're not like good, and I think Riot Shield is just really bad in general. The only redeemable quality I can give to Riot Shield is that when you're swinging, you can turn your side sighted towards the enemy, in which case your shield will passively eat some shots. But overall, it's just not good. Again, probably one of the worst weapons in the game. It is absolutely terrible. I've been saying that for 3 seasons, and I will say it again. This one, it is not good. I am a Riot Shield hater. If there are no Riot Shield haters, then I am dead. Okay, moving on. So, but then we have one more class, and this one is also, like I said, very big. I don't have all the numbers at the moment for the change to heavy and their weapons, but we can still class them based on how they performed, which I think is more important than knowing what the numbers are, because the numbers won't change how they perform. So, first off, Revolver is now S tier thanks to the animation pack. I do have to add that, absolutely. I love the Revolver Ocelot. I love this one so much. But absolutely, yeah. Moving on, heavy, M60. So what I did with the M60, and we're gonna get to Ludus gun in a second, is that the initial kick of the M60 has changed, where you have a really rough kick for the first 5 or 10 bullets. Like it's really hard recoil, and then there's like nearly no recoil for the rest of your 70 bullet magazine. So it's an interesting trade-off. I would say that it took a while to get used to. I still haven't gotten fully used to it. But you can just, as soon as you got past that initial hump in recoil, you can just spray everything down. It is super easy, and you really turn into Rambo. You just pop down a shield or play from good position, and you just put a lot of damage out on people. Sure, the damage fall off isn't the best, but I feel like that's offset by the fact that there's nearly no recoil. But if you get close enough to the enemy, you can just kill everyone. You would just kill everyone. Beefy Kirk, thank you so much for the Twitch Prime. As for the Louis gun, I feel I never really liked the Louis gun that much, and the change that they made now. Oh yeah, also the damage is lower with the M60 and the Louis gun. It definitely felt like it did less damage, but it wasn't the worst on the M60 because you just have so many bullets and it was so easy to control it. As for the Louis gun, I feel like it still doesn't feel good for me personally. Not only is there a high recoil, but the recoil has a lot of horizontal recoil. It jumps a lot to the left and right. But the Lewis gun has the opposite of M60 with the recoil. There is absolutely or almost no recoil for the first maybe 5 to 10 bullets, and then it gets super aggressive recoil-wise for the rest of the pattern. It actually, I believe, ramps up even more the more you shoot your magazine. It has a smaller magazine, but it's clear they want kind of like they want it to be a burst weapon, if anything. I forgot to rank the M60. Sorry, M60 I put in A tier probably. As for the Louis gun, though, yeah, you just like when you shoot over a long period of time, it just stops being viable, which is kind of weird for heavy, because with heavy, at least in my opinion, because I play M60, you're supposed to be inside of the enemy team or like on the front line. You might be playing the shields or whatever, and just putting out a lot of pressure and damage. And it's hard to do that with the Louis gun because you can't keep shooting for the entire magazine. You keep having to pause and get that recoil reset before you continue. This is probably some personal preference, but I feel like due to how I believe heavy should be played, I want to say that Louis gun is worse than the M60, actually a tier below. I think I forgot to put it down there, but it is in the, I'm going to put the Louis gun in the B tier when the M60 is in A tier, in my opinion. Fun doesn't equal strong guys in ranked. Exactly. Very important distinction. Now personally, I think winning is fun. So to me, our weapon being good means it is fun, but it is not a factor we can go by. We need to go by like, how good is this? How viable is this weapon to get me a win? That's what I care about when I do a tier list, or a lot of kills, which usually goes hand in hand. Moving on, we have the MGL 32. I feel like they stealth buffed this, but I haven't used it enough to know for sure. It still sucks though. Probably, again, definitely the worst gun in the game. I don't know which one is worse, the MGL or the Riot Shield. Is really a mid-off. It just doesn't really deal damage to, it doesn't deal consistent damage because you need to bounce one pill and then have it hit an enemy. The amount of damage it deals isn't that much. I guess it does like a lot of clump damage if there's a lot of people bunched up, but that's about it. It doesn't have much destructive damage, so it doesn't really have much of an impact on the game. or on the map, and it doesn't really do much when it comes to like, so basically the ideal way to use a MGL is if a full team is sitting on a high ground and they're just fully encamped and just lob a bunch of grenades in there. But if an enemy is close, especially if they're close to you, it immediately sucks, in my opinion, and you take a lot of self damage from it too. I tried using it with the winch claw, which just pulls the enemy close. It lets me line up 1 or even 2 grenade shots, but the amount of damage I took, both from the MGL and them just dealing more damage because their gun deals more damage, made it not worth it. MGL is good for flushing out a room, but that's all about it can do. Yes, it is not consistent damage, which I again believe is very important. Sorry, I forgot to rank that. I'm putting it's a F tier. MGL is an F tier. I don't know if I even needed to say that. Flamethrower. Flamethrower is not very good, especially on Kyoto, because there's a lot of high grounds and far ranges. It's hard to reach the enemy, so I never really got to use it properly. It's a bit more solid on, let's say, Monaco, because you play inside. If you can play inside of a normal house or building, as in like a Monaco building, which is a pretty small room, you can make the flamethrower work because the enemies are going to be panicking and it can't really shoot back. But in the open, it's absolutely useless. It doesn't deal a lot of damage. I thought it would synergize with the winch, where you pull the enemy in because of close range, but it deals so little damage that I would just winch them inside, start shooting them, and they would either just kill me with the flamethrower. They would just kill me, or they would run away and I couldn't catch up because I was shooting with my flamethrower. So overall, not very good. Then again, I may be bad with the flamethrower, I don't know. But I'm gonna put the flamethrower in the E tier because I still believe it is better than, for example, the MGL. It's just not good at all. As for the KS-23, I believe it has actually received a buff this season. It has a higher DPS, it has a faster, was it like the pump action, I think it said. But honestly, in my opinion, it is still not that good. It is a it is a projectile weapon, so it doesn't deal a lot of damage over, it just doesn't deal consistent damage. You need to lead every shot you do, especially over range, and even damage followed and whatever. I tried running it with winch because I know there's some decent combos you can get off of it, but it was really hard to even hit the shots on enemies when they're close because they started jumping around, and you have to predict how you want to use the KS-23, and it's hard to predict it. Maybe if I had more experience with the winch and the KS, I would do better, but overall, I don't feel like it is a lot more viable this season because it is still, again, projectile weapon. KS is probably decent in terminal attack, speaking of which, because it does have a little bit of burst, but you can kind of peek the little bit of damage and then like get it back into cover so they can't shoot you back. But overall, I wouldn't say, and I believe it does enough damage to one-shot somebody if they have 100 health. Don't remember exactly, but I would say, oh no, it doesn't at all. But overall, I would say it's not that good. SA-1216, definitely more viable this season. We thought that they buffed it when we played it in the preview events because it felt like it dealt more damage or even shot faster, but apparently somebody compared it. It wasn't stealth buffed or anything, it's the same. But it synergizes pretty well with the winch, which makes it better than in the last season, and it even helps with melee and etc. I don't know why I said that, but you know the last part. But it synergizes well with the winch. You get up close. A lot of people are really close this season. I feel like either really far away or really close, especially with all the melee, so a lot of people want to push force melee on you, and since it forces close ranges, you can just out-trade him with SA-1216. Again, if you synergize it with the winch, get him close enough, you can follow it up by shooting him, going bam bam bam, and they're gone. I'm gonna put the SA-1216 in the B tier, so right next to the Lewis. It is a bit niche because you lack range. You need a team that plays with you and enables you. You need a team that shoots over mid to long ranges to make up for your lack of range. If you don't have that, it's gonna be very bad. But if you use it in the right environment, I can actually see it being pretty solid. Moving on, I actually had the most fun with this one. This was the sledgehammer. Super fun to play with. It's pretty decent. It's perfect for the winch. There's one-shot combos for medium and light, where if you, for example, if you hook a light, you use winch, hit your mouse 1, look to the side so it hits faster, and then punch. And for medium, you winch, right-click, and then punch. So not only do you not need to close the gap, and also they changed the slide at the end of last season, and they added multi-hits to the sledgehammer. As of last season, it's pretty overloaded. It's just a lot of different ways you can kill people right now with it. But not only do you have ways to kill people once you get close, you can just pull them to you thanks to the winch. Super fun to play with right now. Super fun. And also pretty solid. And I'm gonna put the sledgehammer in the C tier with the KS-23. Maybe it even deserves to be higher. But I feel like, again, you start using, if you try using the sledgehammer against like a serious team, I feel like they're just gonna Unless, even if you go that, you might pull off occasionally, but overall, they're just gonna kite you and kill you. And finally, we're gonna talk about the spear. That's Heavy's new weapon this season. It has, basically just kind of poke at them with the spear, and you have a right click, which does like AoE damage, and you can push the cash out and stuff away. And it, for some reason, doesn't always work. Did you guys get the clip of the spin, by the way? I think you did, right? We had this, we went for the spin, we went into the whole enemy team and it didn't do the damage, so it's not very reliable. I'm not sure how it's supposed to work, but clearly it didn't. Overall though, I would say that, I don't know the exact damage, but you don't have the same one-shot combos that you have with Sledgehammer and Winch. It doesn't have any destruction, it's all about damage. It has a longer range, so it's more forgiving with the Winch. You can winch, double spear a light, and they die, and you kind of like just jump around and spear someone, but overall it didn't feel that good to use. It didn't feel like it really had that much of a damage or stickiness or anything like that. We clipped it? Okay, thank you. I hate that the spear only does 65 damage in the first hit, but 75 whatever too. That is stupid as hell. Yeah, okay, so apparently it does 65 damage in the first hit and 75 on the other two. That feels really weird. It has a lot of gimmicks to it. It's not reliable damage. It is very bad as far as melees go. And for the first time probably ever, we have found a weapon that will join the MGL32 in the F tier, because I will place a spear in the F tier as well. If you want a melee on heavy, just play the Sledgehammer. It's more fun. It has destruction and one-shot combos with the Winch. Just use the Sledgehammer instead. Bit disappointed that all the new weapons plays pretty low overall in the tiers. I don't know what you guys in chat think, but I personally would love if they would start adding weapons that are more like, you know, B tier, A tier, maybe even S tier instead. Obviously, we don't want them to be overpowered, but I want some actual competitors. I don't want another season of weapons just being mid. I don't know why they keep doing that. They did in season 2 and they're doing season 3. Either way, guys, that was all for the tier list. The stream continues, don't click out. But that was it for the tier list. If you guys have comments, make sure to drop them in the comments. If you guys enjoyed the video, hit the like, subscribe. We're gonna be uploading a lot of content for the finals. Now with the upcoming season, I'm gonna be at DreamHack. If you guys are going to DreamHack, use code Ottr 15% off. But I'll be making sure to get as many videos out as possible until DreamHack starts, and even afterwards. We're just gonna have a small, we're 12 hours in on the stream right now. But that's it for the tier list. I'm gonna hop back into gaming, and I'll see you all next time. Ow, bye bye.